Hey everyone, just wanted to make a quick video talking about Apollo. For those of you who haven't heard, Apollo Legend, speedrunner, YouTuber, speedrun YouTuber. He committed suicide yesterday, or presumably yesterday. There's really not that much in the ways of official info out there right now. I mean, for all we know, he could have just published his video. He put a video out talking about everything that he was going through and why he was doing it and all that yesterday. When I saw it on, well, I didn't even realize it was happening for hours. I was behind, like, everyone on it. I saw Goose tweet about it. Well, he tweeted, vaguely about it. It was, how he was trying to get in touch with Apollo, didn't have his number. I didn't know what he was talking about, so I just messaged him Apollo's number, at least the one I had from him. Those of you who don't know, Apollo and I were I want to say good friends, but I don't want to be irreverent towards people who knew him better than I did. I did know him pretty well though. We've talked a lot in the past. We went on a trip together related to his YouTube channel. I'll talk about that later. Yeah, but anyway, I saw Goose tweet about it. I sent him his phone number. I was like, is something up? Like, what's going on? And, like, as I'm messaging him this, I'm, like, searching and seeing that people are talking about how he's put a suicide note out, and I don't know what they're talking about. And then I eventually find his YouTube channel where he's got the video talking about it, talking about everything up, posted on there. And so that was, like, that sucked when I saw that. I immediately, pulled my phone out, found his number again, the one I just sent to Goose. And I texted him, and I was like, yo, what's up, man? Like, I know, well, I don't want to get too into it, but whatever. I messaged him everything, and then, obviously no response. So I wait a few minutes, and then I give him a call, and I, hear on the machine, the number's no longer in service. So there's no telling. I haven't messaged him on the phone in a while. We usually talk on Twitter. But there's no telling when it got disconnected, I guess. It could have been very recently or not. I don't know. Last time I texted him was probably a few months ago. Anyway. So, I knew Apollo pretty early in my streaming. I'm gonna call it a career, even though it's not a career. Just something in my streaming hobby. Back when I first started, he was doing something on his channel, which was like Twitch streamer highlights, like speedrun highlights. For like people who, when they're streaming on their own Twitch channel and they're doing speedrun stuff, they can send in their highlights and he might feature you. Even though I wasn't really per se speedrunning back then, and I've never really been a speedrunner for that matter. I was playing, for those of you who recall, I was doing things like break the targets, board the platforms on Smash 64, doing my quote cancer challenges unquote, and just trying to do them fast. But it really, I already liked Apollo's content. I watched him all the time, and I just wanted to be like featured on his channel, even though what I was doing wasn't exactly in like what he was looking for, I guess. But I guess I figured I'm doing something. I'm trying to play a game fast, therefore I'm speedrunning, even though it's a category that nobody else alive has ever done. Anyway, so he featured me eventually in a couple videos. One of them, it's not like a big deal or whatever. He put me on the thumbnail for it. It was me making a stupid face when I was popping off from one of my runs. He featured me in that, and I was like, yo, dude, shout out, thank you very much, and we got to talking and stuff, and, I guess a while later I made a video about Eastside Dave, this guy on YouTube who had just made a, I almost called it a diss track. He had made a mean video about Apollo. He was just one of the Billy Mitchell disciples, one of his acolytes. He made a video about Apollo trashing him, and I want to say tipster, but I think it was actually drop rate. Anyway, so he made that video, and then the video, it's the only, I think the only Apollo Legend video I have on my channel is me talking about, like making a response video to Eastside Dave and how ridiculous and insane he was in that video. I wanted to come out in Apollo's defense because I really liked him a lot back then. You know, I thought he was a great YouTuber, really nice guy, and at this point I knew him a little bit. So I made that video, and he messaged me later, a day or two later maybe, I guess. He saw the video, and he commented on the video and everything, and it was cool, because, you know, I was starting to get to know this guy that I had a lot of respect for on YouTube. So he ended up, I think it was this time, like this is the time where it happened, he ended up telling me that he had booked plane tickets to go to Florida to do kind of, what do you call it, like a gotcha interview with Billy Mitchell, who was going to be live down there with some event. He was telling me about it and how, like, what his plan was and everything, and we started talking about it, and we started talking about how he might put together like a Billy Mitchell outfit and go down there and just, you know, do a gotcha. And I got to talking to him about it, and I was like, dude, I almost want to come down there with you I almost want to come down there, like, half joking, I guess. I was like, I almost want to buy a ticket just to come see this. And he was like, I was kind of surprised. He was like, you should. He was like, or that's like what I did, something like that. He said something that made me feel like affirmed that it wouldn't be weird for me to tag along or whatever, and so I volunteered. I was like, hey man, and it was the weekend, like it was literally like the next day, or maybe the day after. I think it was the next day though, that he was gonna do it, so I literally bought a plane ticket that night for a flight at 6 a.m. the next morning, something like that. And I remember I was so excited back then. I was so excited to go down. I didn't even sleep. I literally slept 0 seconds that night. I was up. I tried to go to bed at like 8 p.m. and I just laid there until 3 a.m. and then I just got up and left and went to the airport. So I got to the airport, and then I, you know, made it down to Florida. Linked up with Apollo. We had trouble finding each other at the airport. We didn't realize how airports worked. I'm laughing. We were in different concourses, and we didn't really understand how that worked. Because that's the world has failed us as people. But eventually we linked up. I went to the right concourse and found him there, and saw him for the first time, and saw how he was completely bald, which at the time to me was very funny, but I didn't say anything. Of course. So anyway, we link up. We hitch an Uber. We go down to the house. He's got an Airbnb. We get there. It's unbelievably sketchy. The guy takes like half an hour to answer the door. And we get in there, and he's like clearly extremely hungover or something, and he lets us in, and then we like go up to the room, and it's just like one room, and it's the tiniest room possible with like a crappy bed, and then we're just like, all right, this sucks, and he doesn't have AC, or it's not on or something, and it's like 90 degrees in Florida. It was really bad. And then we find a crack pipe in one of the rooms. And I'm like, dude, we should probably get out of here. So later that day, I ended up booking a hotel so we could just not stay there. Anyway, I still have all this footage sitting around. I'd like to go through it and put it up somewhere on my channel. I kind of just vlog style filmed everything we were doing. I think it'd be cool for people to see Apollo behind the scenes, because he was a really nice guy. It was really cool to meet him. Anyway, so I guess I'll probably have to cut out anything with Billy Mitchell. He would probably still sue me for having him in a video. A video talking about my dead friend. Please sue me, Billy Mitchell. This seems like the time. Anyway, so I guess otherwise I'll just talk about, I mean, I knew him pretty well from that, and then we've talked many times since then, and when he put out the thing where he said that he was done with YouTube and that he had been suicidal and depressed and everything for the past however long, I messaged him on Twitter. This was back in September, and I was like, hit me up anytime, man. I'm not. He's saying he's done on YouTube. So for anyone thinking I was clout chasing or coattail riding, when he's done on YouTube, I'm still messaging him to figure out what's going on with him, if he's okay. Anyway, I reach out, and he doesn't get back to me at all, which was not atypical for him. This was kind of how he always was. He basically never responds if it would take any sort of investment to respond, which of course would have been a red flag at this specific moment, if not for the fact that he had done it many times in the past, which again, I guess is itself a red flag. But I mean, it's very hard to know what you can do for somebody like that, and whether it's just how he is, if it's the same thing that makes us not understand where concourses are in the airport, making him not want to talk to people. I would totally understand that. Anyway, so I think around that time, maybe, I don't really remember, I guess this would have to be a couple months ago, I saw that Easyscape video that he made talking about Apollo, and I remember watching it and being so furious when I was watching it, because there was so much in it that was not objective. There was so much in it that was like, I mean, you can say, yes, we can criticize Apollo for his imperfections, blah, 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 and there's plenty of people saying this on Twitter right now, which is really annoying, talking about how, Apollo, he wasn't perfect, but nobody should have to go through this. Nice teaspoon. So plenty of people saying that on Twitter right now, which I'm very annoyed by, because none of you knew him. Most of the people saying that don't know him, and didn't know what kind of situation he was in at the time. But anyway, so valid criticisms aside, that video really irritated me, because there were all these things he said about Apollo as a person and to his character that I thought was blatantly false. At the time, I was very close to making a response video. It was about as close as I could have been to making a video without actually doing it. Sadly, this was like post-YouTube retirement for me, so I just didn't do it. Which sucks now, because, I mean, of course, I'm not going to delude myself into thinking that I was important enough to Apollo that I could have made the difference for him or whatever, but I'm sure he needed support back then. I wish I would have made the video pointing out the stuff that I thought was wrong with what Easyscape said. Everything about it that was wrong, and that, I don't know. It's Apollo and I had one thing in common, which is that I'm sure we had plenty of things in common, but one thing that we notably had in common, we're both hypersensitive to criticism, and we both kind of put ourselves in spots where we are subject to it anyway. So like, we're disagreeable people, but extremely high in negative emotion. He more so than me, and then of course, with a much bigger spotlight than I ever had, much more seriously than me. Don't worry about me, I'm okay. Not to make this about me. But herein kind of lies the problem. This is what YouTube is. It's this cesspool of garbage where you don't have success as a creator unless you are producing videos that bring harm to someone, yourself, another person, drama. This is what sells. It's not even really a YouTube problem. It's like a humanity problem, and YouTube is just the scapegoat for it because it's where it exists most obviously. But anyway, I mean, back when I was actually active on YouTube and, you know, I was making my garbage drama videos about HBox, that was a high point for my channel and a low point for me personally. Even though I tried to never let it through, it was very difficult for me to be in the spotlight and to be in a negative spotlight right then. And yet it's exactly what YouTube tells you should do, because that's what gets results. So I imagine he was in a very similar boat to that. Although much worse, because while I only got 100,000 to 200,000 views on my biggest video, he was getting millions. And, you know, when you're in that kind of limelight, it's a lot. I mean, you're getting criticized by everyone all the time. So I don't mean to lay any of the blame, or much of the blame, at the foot of people like EasyScape and Dark Viper, who Apollo specifically cited, of course, in his note. I don't mean to lay the blame on them, because it's really a character flaw that made him so sensitive. It's the same one I have, I think, that makes it so difficult to exist on that landscape. And yet it was, you know, his means of, it was his, you know, income. It was what he did, and it's not like he could just stop doing it, or at least not easily, not without sacrificing kind of a lot. And it's hard to know. When you're in that spot, it's hard to know what the right decision is. I went the way of stopping doing YouTube in favor of keeping myself alive and mentally healthy. But a lot of people don't make that call, and some of those stories end the way this one did, which sucks. But it is what it is, I guess. Anyway, yeah, again, I just want to drive home that I don't outright blame anyone. I mean, it's hard to say. There's plenty that has gone wrong here for him and for everyone else. I really do think, I don't mean to get on just to leverage the death of my friend as a talking point, but I do think this speaks to the fact that, isn't it about time we stop this lockdown stuff? I'm sorry, I probably won't get much support on that one either, but gosh, you know, it sure is hubristic of us to say we get to decide who gets to live and die. You know, isn't it odd that it's either people die from COVID or people die at addiction, substance abuse, isolation, suicide? I'm not saying all of this with Apollo happened because of the lockdown, though I do suspect, A, that it contributed, and B, that it has contributed to many more substantially than him. Now, I think it's sad that we have to live in perpetual fear, and we have to isolate everyone, and these people are getting depressed and killing themselves, and not seeing their friends, and not having social outlets, and not going to school, and not being able to live as functional human beings, and they're being raised like this at times where their brains are the most subject to development and change from their environment. So young people are suffering more than anyone else right now, and apparently that's fine, because we don't want 1,000-year-old grandmas to die who could just as easily self-isolate, though I'm not okay. I don't want to get too much on the soapbox here. I do think that this is nonsense what we're going through right now, and I think it needs to end, and I think this is a sign of that. But I don't want to make this video about that. So anyway, I'll just cut it off there. Apollo was a very important person to me. So for a lot of you who have reached out to me on Twitter, DM'd me about this situation to share your condolences, my friendship with him was a lot like my friendship with many of you, which is that I know you, we talk on occasion, but mostly I just sit back and like, I don't want to say observe you like I'm some freak, but like, you know, we hang out in public forums. We don't necessarily always message each other and say, you know, how's it going, what's up, you want to hang out later, stuff like that. We don't do stuff like that, but you know, I care for a lot of you the same way I cared for Apollo, and I'm very saddened by what's happened to him. So thank you all who have reached out to me, and for all of you who are reaching out to him, or his family rather, and who tried to reach out to him. nobody's happy about what's happened, but we can just move forward from here, I guess. Alright, everyone. I want to end this with don't be afraid to reach out for help or whatever, but I was very sad to hear something I have always suspected, confirmed in his video, where he said, people tell you to get help like you're just supposed to, walk through some door and then you're okay, or whatever. I only watched the video once, but I really noticed that line because, it's so, like, I'd already thought that was probably the case. For somebody who's gone that far, that it's probably very difficult for them to be like, wow, what do I do now? You mean I just call this phone number and that's gonna fix things for me? Once you've gotten that deep into it, it's like, no, you needed help a long time ago, probably. Not to dissuade anyone who thinks they need to reach out from reaching out. Please do. I just suspect that for a lot of people it's not enough, and Apollo was one of them. So try to stop it before it's gone too far. For those of you who are in a bad place because of some decision you're making, especially if you're living unhealthily or you're participating in unhealthy things, it could take some serious lifestyle changes. Like for me, it was getting off of YouTube, getting on the NoFap regiment, being very involved religiously, finding a lot of meaning, existential meaning out of life religiously. I strongly recommend that for those of you suffering and think it's purposeless. It will, at the very least, give some meaning to it. Not to say that I think, even from a secular point of view, that you should be religious because of, some sort of Pascal's wager thing here, where you end up with better mental health or whatever. I think that better mental health as a result of religion is because God has instilled in us this desire to find him, and it kind of naturally orients our life when we're on that path. So I strongly recommend that was sweet. I strongly recommend pursuing that for any of you. Well, for anyone, really, but especially if you're going through anything. I'm sorry this was not a very organized video. I didn't think I would have it in me to sit down and edit through something serious, so I just wanted to... I know him in a public way. I think it makes sense for me to make a video about him, since that was how I knew him, through YouTube. But I didn't want to sit down and edit. I just made a stupid Tetris video with Mandelbrot sets in the background, which I think look pretty cool. Very aesthetic. Anyway, take it easy, guys. Take care. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you when I see you.